Stop. You haven't subscribed to the channel yet. Subscribe now. We have new stories every day. Now, let's go. Callum Jennings parked his Telsum in the circular driveway of his Rosecliff mansion, the engine purring to silence as he gathered his briefcase. Business trips always left him exhausted, but they were necessary. 3 days in Newland, finalizing the purchase of another failing auto shop, his 16th acquisition in 5 years. Soon, Jennings Automotive would have locations in 12 states. He paused at the front door, key in hand, listening. Laughter filtered through the heavy wood. His wife Zara and their daughter Leila. Something about the sound made him hesitate. It wasn't warm or welcoming. It held an edge of conspiracy. Callum pushed open the door, and the laughter died instantly. Lila's voice carried a false brightness. At 24, she still lived at home, enjoying the privileges of wealth without responsibility. "You're back early." Zara stood at the kitchen island, wine glass in hand. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. "We weren't expecting you until tomorrow." Callum set his briefcase down, taking in the scene. Wine bottles, empty glasses, and a tension that hadn't been there when he left. Meeting wrapped up sooner than expected. "Thought I'd surprise you." Zara approached, kissing his cheek. Her perfume was different. Stronger. How was Newland? Profitable. Callum watched her face carefully. After 25 years of marriage, he could read her like a balance sheet. Something wasn't adding up. "Well," Leila grabbed her phone from the counter. "I've got plans with Ivy. Don't wait up." Callum nodded, noting how she avoided his gaze. "Don't max out the card this time." Leila rolled her eyes. "Whatever, Dad. It's not like you can't afford it." After she left, Callum loosened his tie. "Everything okay while I was gone?" Zara busied herself cleaning glasses. "Fine. Just girl talk with Leila. You know how she gets." Callum nodded, but suspicion had already taken root. "I'm going to shower." In his office, Callum pulled up the security system on his laptop. He'd installed it years ago after a break-in attempt. Cameras in common areas, motion sensors, the works. He never told Zara or Leila. He reviewed the footage regularly. People revealed their true selves when they thought no one was watching. He scrolled back 2 days, found footage of the kitchen. There they were, Zara and Leila, wine glasses in hand. "Mom, you only live once," Leila was saying, her words slightly slurred. 25 years with just Dad. That's insane. Zara sipped her wine. "Your father's been good to us." "Good?" Leila scoffed. "He's controlling. He's never home." "And when was the last time you two actually had fun?" She leaned forward. "You have a lot to lose by never trying something new." "What are you suggesting?" Zara asked, but her tone suggested she already knew. "Just open the marriage." Leila shrugged. "Try a new size." She laughed at her own crude joke. Callum's hands tightened on the desk. "I couldn't do that to your father," Zara said, but her protests sounded weak. "Dad would never know. He's too busy with his precious business." Zara twirled her wedding ring. "I don't know, Leila. My trainer at the gym asked about me. You know Darren. He thinks I'm hot." Zara blushed. "Stop it. He's 36, totally ripped, and he's got this look like he knows exactly what a woman needs." "Leila, just think about it. What's the harm in a coffee date?" Leila refilled their glasses. "Dad's away for 3 more days." Callum watched as his wife's resolve crumbled. It was all there in her eyes. Desire, curiosity, justification. "Maybe just coffee," Zara conceded. Leila smirked in triumph. "That's my girl." Callum closed the laptop, a cold calm settling over him. So this was how 25 years ended. His daughter encouraging his wife to cheat while he paid the bills. He showered, letting hot water pound his shoulders as he considered his options. Confrontation would be satisfying but ineffective. Zara would deny. Leila would deflect. No, this required strategy. Patience. Revenge. Back downstairs, Callum found Zora preparing dinner. He slid his arms around her waist, feeling her stiffen before she relaxed. "Missed you," he murmured, kissing her neck. "Missed you too," she replied, turning to face him. Such an easy lie. "How was your day?" he asked, watching her eyes carefully. "Nothing special. Lunch with the girls. Then Leela and I watched a movie." Callum nodded as if accepting this fabrication. "I'm thinking of taking you to Zaria for our anniversary. 3 weeks. Just us." Surprise flickered across Zora's face. That sounds wonderful." "Good." He smiled, knowing she was already calculating if she could bring her new distraction along, or if she'd have to pause her betrayal. It's settled then. That night, Callum lay awake, listening to Zora's steady breathing beside him. 25 years of building a life together. A daughter he'd spoiled too much. A wife who'd forgotten her vows. They would learn betrayal had a price, and he would make sure they paid in full. Morning light filtered through the blinds as Callum dialed a familiar number, his home office door firmly closed. Elias Caldwell speaking. "It's Callum. Need to meet. Everything all right? You sound tense." Elias had been Callum's attorney for 15 years, guiding him through business acquisitions and the occasional lawsuit. "No, but it will be. Usual place. Noon." At exactly 12, Callum entered Hathaway's steakhouse, heading straight for the private room in back. Elias was already there, nursing a scotch, his tailored suit as impeccable as ever. "This better be important," Elias said by way of greeting. "I canceled court prep." Callum sat, declined the waiter's drink offer, and waited until they were alone. "I need divorce papers drawn up." Elias's eyebrows shot up. "Zara? Seriously? She's cheating." "We're about to. Lila's encouraging it." Callum explained what he'd seen, keeping his tone matter-of-fact despite the rage simmering beneath. Elias whistled low. "Your own daughter." "That's Callum. I want them destroyed." Callum said, his voice flat. "Every penny, every privilege gone." A slow grin spread across Elias's face. "Standard divorce won't cut it. We need to be creative." "How creative can we get?" Callum asked. Elias steepled his fingers. "How many of your businesses did you start before marriage?" 3, the original shops. And Zara signed the prenup, correct? The one with the infidelity clause. Callum nodded. 25 years ago. She didn't think it mattered. It matters now. Elias pulled out a leather-bound notebook. "The prenup states she gets nothing if she cheats, but we need irrefutable proof." "I'll get it. Your daughter complicates things. She's legally an adult, so cutting her off is simpler, but she could fight for her trust fund." Callum's jaw tightened. "Freeze it. All of it. I want her to feel what it's like to have nothing. She'll hate you. She already does." Elias made notes, his pen scratching against paper. "What about the house?" "Sell it. Your boat. The vacation property in Highvale. Everything. Everything. I want them out with nothing but the clothes they're wearing. And then I want those clothes too." Elias chuckled. "Remind me never to cross you." He tapped his pen. "We need to move assets quietly. Make them untraceable or protected under corporate shields. Start transferring funds to the offshore accounts we set up for tax purposes." Elias nodded. "And you need to get proof of the affair. Quality evidence. Video preferably. Texts, emails, the works." "Done," Callum said. "Let's burn them down, Callum." Callum entered the passcode to his private office at the main shop. Miles Vance, his shop foreman and most trusted employee, was waiting. "Boss," Miles acknowledged with a nod. At 55, he'd seen enough of life to recognize its uglier truths. "Got your message." Sounded urgent. Callum closed the door. "I need your help. Off the books." Miles's weathered face remained impassive. "Whatever you need." Callum explained the situation tersely, watching for judgment in Miles's eyes. There was none. "Women," Miles muttered. My third wife did the same thing. Took half my pension before I caught her. That's not happening to me. Callum pulled up a map on his computer. The Hudson Hotel downtown. I need eyes and ears inside. Miles studied the layout. Got a guy who works security there. Owes me. What exactly are we looking for? My wife meeting her trainer. I need video, audio, everything. Consider it done. Over the next week, Callum maintained a facade of normalcy while setting his trap. During the day, he attended meetings, reviewed acquisitions, kept the business running. At night, he kissed Zara, asked about her day, listened to her lies. Meanwhile, he monitored everything. Zara's phone showed text messages to a new contact, Darren R. Her credit card statements revealed purchases at a lingerie store and a day spa. She'd withdrawn cash, $3,000 from their joint account. Lila was equally transparent. New shoes, designer bags, a weekend trip to Vegas that Callum supposedly knew about, all funded by accounts he kept full. On Thursday, Callum received a text from Miles. Package delivered. In his office, Callum found a USB drive containing several video files. The first showed Zora entering the Hudson Hotel at 2:17 p.m. on Tuesday. She wore a dress Callum had never seen, her hair styled differently. A man met her in the lobby. Tall, muscled, with the smug confidence of someone used to taking what didn't belong to him. Darren. More footage followed. The elevator, the hallway, the hotel room door closing behind them. Then most damning of all, footage from inside the room itself. Miles's contact had been thorough. Callum watched just enough to confirm what he already knew, then closed the laptop. Evidence secured. He moved to the next phase. That night, Zara came home late, claiming a charity committee ran long. Callum nodded, noticing the slight swelling of her lips, the faint mark on her neck she tried to cover with makeup. "How was your day?" he asked, watching her construct another lie. "Busy. Boring. The committee can't agree on a venue." "That's too bad." She headed for the stairs. "I'm going to shower before dinner. Take your time." Callum replied, knowing she was washing away evidence of her betrayal. It didn't matter. He had all he needed. The next morning, Callum called his banker and initiated the transfers they'd discussed. Millions moved through a labyrinth of accounts and shells, emerging clean and untouchable on the other side. Then he contacted the real estate agent he'd used for commercial properties. "I need to list my house," quietly. That evening, he picked up his phone as Leela came bouncing into the kitchen, a shopping bag on her arm. "New purse?" he asked casually. She pulled out a white leather designer bag. "Just a little something. Don't worry, I use my own money." The money he provided. The trust fund he'd established. The credit cards he paid off monthly without question. "It's nice," he said, snapping a photo when she wasn't looking. Evidence of spending before the axe fell. Later, he found Zara in their walk-in closet, trying on a black dress he'd never seen. "Hot date?" he asked, keeping his tone light. She startled. "Just thought I'd refresh my wardrobe." This was on sale. The price tag she'd hastily tucked away read $2,200. "You deserve nice things," he said, kissing her forehead. She smelled like another man's cologne, faintly lingering despite her shower. That night in bed, Callum stared at the ceiling, calculating. The evidence was mounting. The legal framework was in place. Assets were protected. It was almost time to spring the trap. Callum stood at the window of his temporary apartment, watching rain streak down the glass. He'd signed a lease 3 days ago under one of his shell corporations. The furnished downtown loft wasn't home, but it would do until he rebuilt his life, minus the traitors who'd once been family. His phone buzzed with a text from Miles. "They're meeting again. Same hotel." Perfect timing. 2 weeks of surveillance had yielded a clear pattern. Tuesday and Thursday afternoons, Zara claimed salon appointments or charity meetings, while meeting Darren at the Hudson. Their routine made them predictable. vulnerable. Callum texted back, "Keep recording. I want everything." While Zara indulged her affair, Callum continued moving pieces on his chessboard. That morning, he'd signed documents transferring ownership of their home to one of his business entities. The cars, except his Telsum, were now company vehicles. The art collection, jewelry, even Zora's beloved grand piano, all itemized, valued, and legally reassigned. His phone rang. "Leila." "Dad, I need more money in my account," she said without preamble. "What happened to last week's deposit?" Callum kept his voice neutral. "Ivy and I are planning a trip to Cabo. The villa alone is 12 grand. Callum closed his eyes briefly. "Consider it done." "Thanks, Dad. You're the best." A pause. "Have you seen Mom?" "She's not answering her phone." "Charity meeting," Callum replied, wondering if Leila knew exactly where her mother was. "I'll tell her to call you." After hanging up, Callum transferred $20,000 to Leila's account. Let her spend it while she could. The clock was ticking. Across town, Elias was meeting with the family accountant, instructing him to prepare for a major restructuring. "Medical emergency," Elias explained smoothly. "Callum wants everything in order." Callum's phone buzzed again. An email from Miles containing a video file and a message. "You'll want to see this." The video showed Leila and Ivy at a restaurant, heads close together, laughing. "I can't believe she actually did it," Ivy was saying, her voice slightly distorted but clear enough. "Your mom is really sleeping with her trainer." Leila sipped her cocktail. "It was so easy. All I had to do was tell her she was missing out, and boom, she's booking hotel rooms with Darren." "What about your dad?" "Please, he's clueless, too busy with his precious business to notice Mom's getting railed by the hot trainer." Ivy's eyes widened. "Aren't you worried he'll find out?" Leila waved dismissively. "So what if he does? Mom will get half of everything in the divorce. She's put up with him for 25 years. She deserves it." "And what about you?" "Trust fund, baby. Mine, no matter what happens. And if Dad cuts me off out of spite, I'll just move in with Mom and her divorce settlement." Leila smirked. "Plus, can you imagine his face when he finds out I'm the one who pushed her to cheat? Priceless." Callum stopped the video, a cold fury settling in his chest. His own daughter was plotting his humiliation, counting his money before he was even ruined. He dialed Elias. "Move up the timeline. I want everything in place by tomorrow." "That's aggressive," Elias cautioned. "We planned for next week." "They're getting bolder. I want this finished." A pause. "All right. I'll file the divorce papers tomorrow. The courier will serve her by afternoon." "No," Callum interrupted. "Not yet. Hold the papers. I want to confront her myself first." "Callum, that's not advisable." "It's what I want." Elias sighed. "Your call. Just don't say anything that could complicate the legal proceedings." Callum ended the call and opened his laptop. A few keystrokes brought up the security system of his soon-to-be former home. The kitchen was empty, the living room too. No sign of Leila. It was time. He grabbed his keys and headed for the garage. This end would have a beginning, and he would dictate its terms. Callum arrived home shortly before 6, knowing Zora would be back from her rendezvous. He parked in the driveway rather than the garage, leaving the engine running, a statement of impermanence. The house was quiet when he entered. Scented candles burned in the foyer, Zora's attempt to mask guilt with domestic normalcy. "Callum." Her voice carried from upstairs. "Is that you?" In the living room, he called back, setting his tablet on the coffee table. Footsteps descended the stairs. Zora appeared, wearing casual loungewear, hair still damp from a shower. Erasing evidence. "You're home early," she remarked, trying for casual but landing on nervous. Callum gestured to the sofa across from him. "Sit down." She hesitated, sensing the shift. "Is everything okay?" "Sit." She complied, perching on the edge of the cushion. "You're scaring me." Callum tapped the tablet screen, bringing it to life. How was your charity meeting? Fine. Productive. The lie came easily now. Practiced. Which charity was it again? She blinked. The Children's Hospital fundraiser. You know, I'm on the committee. Callum nodded as if accepting this. And yesterday? Where were you yesterday afternoon? Yoga class, then coffee with Diane. Strange, Callum mused, because Diane called here looking for you. Seems she's been trying to reach you for days. Color drained from Zora's face. I mean Andrea, not Diane. No more lies, Zora. Callum's voice remained steady as he turned the tablet toward her and pressed play. The screen showed Zora entering the Hudson Hotel lobby, checking her reflection in a mirror, fixing her lipstick. Callum, she began. He held up a hand, silencing her. The video continued, Darren greeting her with a kiss that was far from casual. The elevator, the hallway, closing door. Turn it off, she whispered. Callum increased the volume. Her voice filled the room, saying things she'd never said to him, making sounds he'd never heard from her. Zara stood abruptly. This is an invasion of privacy. Privacy? Callum laughed, a harsh sound devoid of humor. You gave up any right to privacy when you slept with another man in a hotel room I paid for. It's not what it looks like. It's exactly what it looks like. Callum paused the video on a particularly damning frame. 25 years, Zora. 25 years I gave you everything. And this is how you repay me. Tears spilled down her cheeks. I made a mistake. A terrible mistake. Please, we can work through this. There's no we anymore. Callum's voice was ice. I know everything, how long it's been going on, how Leela encouraged you. He leaned forward. That's right. I know our daughter convinced you to cheat. Fresh shock washed over Zora's face. You don't understand. I understand perfectly. You got bored, entitled, decided my devotion wasn't enough anymore. It wasn't like that. The front door opened. Leela entered, freezing when she sensed the tension. What's going on? Callum stood, turning to face his daughter. Perfect timing. Join your mother on the couch. Dad, what? Now. Something in his tone made her obey. She sat beside Zara, who was openly crying now. Mom, what's happening? Callum tossed a folder onto the coffee table. Open it. Leela hesitated, then reached for the folder. Inside were bank statements showing her accounts, 0 balances. Credit card statements, all canceled. A notice of eviction for the house. What is this? Her voice rose with panic. What did you do? A better question is what did you do, Leela? Callum played another video, Leela and Ivy at the restaurant, discussing how Leela had pushed Zora to cheat. You were spying on me. Leela's outrage was theatrical. I was protecting my interests, Callum corrected. Something both of you should have considered before betraying me. Zara reached for him. Callum, please. We can fix this. He stepped back. There's nothing to fix. The divorce papers are being prepared as we speak. Lila's trust fund has been dissolved. This house goes on the market tomorrow. You can't do this. Leela screamed, jumping to her feet. I'm your daughter. Callum regarded her coldly. You stopped being my daughter the second you told your mother to betray me. Where are we supposed to go? Zara asked, her voice small. Not my problem. Leela grabbed her phone. I'm calling Ivy. She'll let me stay with her. Good luck with that, Callum replied. She's already been informed your spending privileges have been revoked. Let's see how loyal your friend is when you can't fund her lifestyle. Reality was setting in. The blood drained from Leela's face as she scrolled through her phone, likely discovering her cards were already declining. This can't be happening, she whispered. What about our anniversary trip? Zara asked desperately. You said Zaria. A test. One you failed spectacularly. Callum checked his watch. You have until midnight to pack what you can carry. Anything left becomes my property. This is insane. Lila's voice rose to a shriek. "I'll sue you. I'll tell everyone what you did." "Go ahead." Callum's smile was razor sharp. "Tell them how you convinced your mother to cheat on your father, how you bragged about it, how you planned to spend my money after destroying my marriage. See how that plays in court." The fight drained from Lila's face, replaced by dawning horror. "Dad, please, save it." Callum turned to leave. Midnight. Not a minute later. "Callum, wait." Zora's voice was ragged. "Where are you going?" He paused at the door. "To build a life without traitors." As he walked to his car, he heard Lila's wails and Zora's sobs through the open door. The sound should have brought satisfaction, yet he felt only a hollow certainty that justice was being served. 3 weeks passed in a blur of productivity. Callum threw himself into work, expanding his business while systematically erasing all traces of his former family. The house sold in 10 days, a record for the upscale neighborhood. Callum accepted an offer well below market value just to be done with it. The belongings Zora and Lila couldn't take, crystal, china, jewelry they claimed as family heirlooms, went to auction. Callum donated the proceeds to a veteran charity. "You don't have to punish yourself along with them," Elias commented during one of their meetings. "That house was your home too." "It was just a building," Callum replied, signing the paperwork finalizing the sale. "The home died when they betrayed me." Elias studied him. "Have you heard from Zara?" "Calls daily. Layla texted until I blocked her. And nothing. It's done." In truth, Callum knew exactly where they were. Miles's contacts reported that Zora had moved into a modest apartment paid for by her sister. Darren had vanished as soon as Zora's financial situation became clear. Layla had indeed run to Ivy, who let her stay for exactly 3 days before kicking her out. Now she was couch surfing with increasingly distant friends, her social media presence dwindling as fair-weather companions abandoned her. Callum's phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "We need to talk. Please. Z." He deleted it without responding. That evening, Callum visited one of his shops. Miles was under a Ferrari, only his legs visible. "Boss," he acknowledged, sliding out. "Didn't expect you today." Callum handed him an envelope. "Bonus for your help." Miles pocketed it without checking the amount. "Thanks, but I'd have done it for free. Loyalty matters." "Yes," Callum agreed. "It does. Heard your wife's trainer skip town. Found some rich divorcee in Scottsdale." Callum shrugged. "Predictable. You doing okay?" Miles wiped his hands on a rag. "No offense, but you look like hell." "Just busy. The expansion's taking more time than expected." Miles nodded, not pushing further. "That daughter of yours tried to get a job at Mike's bar." Callum raised an eyebrow. "Lila, working?" "Desperate times," Miles chuckled. "Mike didn't hire her. Said she had no skills except spending daddy's money." The information should have pleased Callum. Instead, he felt a flicker of something unwelcome. Not remorse, exactly. They'd earned their fate, but perhaps recognition that vengeance, while justified, wasn't as satisfying as he imagined. "I'm having a whiskey at Carlton's," Callum said. "Join me when you're done here." Later, nursing a double scotch at the upscale bar, Callum checked his email. Another message from Zora. Subject line: "Please read. Important." Against his better judgment, he opened it. "Callum, I know you hate me. I understand why. What I did was unforgivable. I've lost everything. My home, my husband, even my daughter blames me now. Darren is gone. He used me, just like you probably knew he would. I was stupid and selfish and weak. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But after 25 years, don't I at least deserve a conversation? One chance to explain. Please." Zara. Callum deleted the email. There was nothing to explain, nothing to discuss. Rough day. The bartender refilled his glass. "Just business," Callum replied, though it wasn't business that weighed on him. Business was thriving. His personal life was a wasteland. Miles arrived, taking the stool beside him. "You look like you're at a funeral." "Maybe I am." They drank in companionable silence until Miles said, "You know, my third wife begged to come back too." Callum glanced at him. "And you told her to pound sand." Miles sipped his beer. 10 years later, still wondering if I made the right call. "You think I should forgive Zara?" "Heck no. Just saying revenge and happiness aren't the same thing." Callum considered this. "I'm not looking for happiness. Just justice." "Then you're getting exactly what you want." Miles nodded at the bartender for another round. "Hope it's worth it." 2 days later, Callum was leaving his office when his phone rang. Lila's name flashed on the screen. She must be using someone else's phone since he blocked her number. Against his better judgment, he answered. "What?" "Dad." Her voice was small, nothing like her usual entitlement. "I need help." "Ask your mother." "She can't help. She can barely afford rent." Callum leaned against his car. "Not my problem." "I have nowhere to stay," Lila continued, desperation evident. "I'm broke. Ivy won't answer my calls. None of my friends will help. They were never your friends, just parasites, like you." A sharp intake of breath. "That's not fair." "No." Callum's voice hardened. "You encouraged your mother to cheat on me. You laughed about it. You planned to spend my money after destroying my marriage. Tell me what part of that deserves fairness." Silence, then a sob. "I was wrong. I know that now, but I'm your daughter. You're nothing to me." The words tasted bitter, but his sense of justice demanded them. "Figure out your own life. I'm done funding it." He hung up, feeling hollow rather than victorious. This was justice. This was consequences. This was exactly what they deserved. So why didn't it feel like winning? 6 months passed. Winter gave way to spring, and Callum's business empire continued to grow. 4 new locations, a partnership with a luxury car manufacturer, a profile in Business Monthly highlighting his success. The article made no mention of his personal life. The journalist had tried to ask about family, but Callum shut down those questions instantly. His family was a closed chapter, a cautionary tale he kept to himself. Sitting in his penthouse office, Callum reviewed the quarterly reports. Profits up 18%. Expansion on track. Everything proceeding according to plan. Professionally, at least. His phone buzzed with a text from Miles. "You seen this?" Attached was a link to a gossip website. Callum rarely bothered with such trash, but the headline caught his attention. "Affair to remember. Socialite sex scandal exposed by former trainer." The article featured photos of Zara entering the Hudson Hotel, photos Callum hadn't released. More intimate pictures followed, clearly provided by Darren. "She was desperate for attention," Darren Riker told the reporter. "Her husband was this big-shot businessman who ignored her. She practically begged me to be with her." Callum's jaw tightened as he scrolled through the tawdry expose. Darren, presumably needing cash after his Scottsdale meal ticket ran dry, had sold their story to the highest bidder. Her own daughter encouraged the affair, Riker continued. "That should tell you everything you need to know about this family." Within hours, the story spread. Local news picked it up. Social media exploded. Zara Jennings, once a respected socialite, now a punchline. Callum's phone rang. "Elias. I assume you've seen it." Elias asked. "Just now." "We should issue a statement, control the narrative." Callum considered this. "No, let it burn." "Callum, this affects your reputation too." "I don't care." "Well, your ex-wife cares. She's trying to do damage control on Instagram. It's not going well." Curiosity got the better of Callum. He opened Instagram and found Zora's account. Her latest post was a rambling explanation, equal parts self-pity and justification. "While I made mistakes, the portrayal of my marriage in recent media is one-sided and cruel. My ex-husband was emotionally absent for years." The comments were brutal. "Cheaters never prosper. How's that affair working out for you now? Gold digger got what she deserved. Callum closed the app, feeling strangely empty. This should be satisfying. Public humiliation, the ultimate revenge. Yet it felt hollow, like winning a game no one else was playing. His phone buzzed again, a text from a number he didn't recognize. Dad, please help. The media is camped outside Mom's apartment. They're saying horrible things. Callum didn't respond. Another text. I know we deserve this, but it's getting dangerous. Someone threw something at Mom yesterday. Delete. A third message. I'm scared. Callum put the phone down, trying to focus on work. This was justice. This was what they'd earned with their betrayal. Hours later, his buzzer rang. Security from the lobby. Sir, there's a woman here insisting on seeing you. Said she's your daughter. Callum closed his eyes briefly. Send her away. She's causing quite a scene, sir. Fine. Send her up. Minutes later, Leela stood in his doorway. She looked nothing like the entitled princess who'd once flaunted designer purchases in his face. Her clothes were simple, inexpensive, her face bare of makeup showing dark circles under her eyes. 2 minutes, Callum said, not inviting her in. She stepped forward anyway. You have to help Mom. I don't have to do anything. The press won't leave her alone. They're printing lies. Are they? Did she cheat? Did you encourage it? Did you both laugh behind my back? Leela flinched. Yes, but then they're not lies. They're saying she slept with other men too. That I pimped her out. Tears filled Leela's eyes. A client at her job saw the stories and propositioned her. She quit, but now she can't find work. For a moment, Callum felt a flicker of concern. Then he remembered the videos, the laughter, the betrayal. Your 2 minutes are up. Dad, please. We made a terrible mistake, but don't we deserve a chance to rebuild our lives? Callum studied his daughter, searching for remorse beyond self-pity. Actions have consequences, Layla. You're finally learning that. So that's it. You'll let us be destroyed completely. You destroyed yourselves. Leela wiped her tears. I always thought you were cold. Now I know you're cruel, too. Get out. As the door closed behind her, Callum turned back to his work, but the words blurred on the screen. Cruel. Was that what justice looked like from the other side? He poured himself a scotch, trying to drown the unwelcome thought. 1 week later, Callum arrived at his main shop for a routine inspection. As he parked, he noticed a familiar figure on a bench across the street, Zara, waiting. He considered leaving, avoiding the confrontation. Instead, he got out and walked toward her. She stood as he approached, uncertainty in every line of her body. She'd lost weight, her face gaunt. Her designer clothes were gone, replaced by simple jeans and a sweater. Her hair, once professionally styled weekly, now showing gray at the roots. What are you doing here? Callum asked, keeping his voice neutral. I needed to see you, she said. She looked exhausted. I've called, texted, emailed. You never respond. I have nothing to say to you. Then just listen. Desperation edged her words. Please. Against his better judgment, Callum nodded toward the coffee shop next door. 5 minutes. Inside, they sat at a corner table. Zara's hands trembled as she clutched her cup. I was stupid, she began, her voice barely above a whisper. I let Leela poison me with ideas of what I was missing. I let my own insecurities convince me that you didn't want me anymore. Callum remained silent. Darren meant nothing. It was excitement, attention. Things I thought I wasn't getting from you. You never asked for those things. Callum pointed out. You went straight to betrayal. I know. Tears spilled down her cheeks. I hate myself for it every day. Is that supposed to make me feel better? No. She wiped her eyes. Nothing can make this better. I need you to know I understand what I destroyed. What we had was real, and I threw it away for nothing. Callum studied her. Why now? Because you're broke. Because your reputation is ruined. Because I miss you, she whispered. Because despite everything, you're still the man I love. For 25 years. Love, Callum echoed. Past tense. Love, she corrected. Present. Always. A bitter laugh escaped him. Love doesn't lie. Love doesn't cheat. Love doesn't conspire with your child to betray you. I was stupid. I let her poison me. Please, let's fix this. Callum stood, placing money on the table for the untouched coffee. Fix what? You burned what we had the moment you did this. Zara grabbed his hand. I have nothing left. He looked down at her, seeing not the confident socialite who'd once graced his arm at charity events, but a broken woman facing the consequences of her choices. Good, he said, pulling his hand away. Now we're even. As he walked out, her sobs followed him. He didn't look back. Inside his car, Callum sat motionless, hands gripping the steering wheel. The encounter should have felt satisfying. A final victory over the woman who'd betrayed him. Instead, emptiness yawned inside him. Was this truly justice, or just mutual destruction? His phone rang. Miles. Your ex-wife just left, Miles said without preamble. Looked pretty torn up. She should be. You okay, boss? Miles asked gently. Callum started the engine. Fine. Why wouldn't I be? Because revenge is a poison, Miles replied simply. Burns the one drinking it, as much as the one it's meant for. Save the philosophy. Just saying. Maybe it's time to stop drinking. Callum ended the call, unwilling to acknowledge the truth in Miles's words. This was justice, not revenge, wasn't it? 1 year to the day after discovering Zora's betrayal, Callum stood in his new penthouse, watching the city lights come alive as dusk settled. The space was modern, minimalist, nothing like the ornate mansion he'd once shared with his family. His phone buzzed with a calendar alert. Anniversary. Not of his marriage, but of its ending, of the day he'd chosen justice over forgiveness. The intercom announced a visitor. Miles, right on time. Nice place, Miles commented, accepting the whiskey Callum offered. Little empty, though. Callum shrugged. I like space. Speaking of space, Miles said, that new shop in Emerald Bay is ready to open. You flying down for the ribbon cutting? Next week. They moved to the balcony, the summer evening warm around them. Heard your ex is moving, Miles said casually. Got a job offer in Seattle, teaching music at some school. Callum didn't ask how Miles knew this. His foreman had become a surprisingly effective intelligence network over the past year. Good for her. Your daughter went with her, working as a receptionist or something. Callum sipped his whiskey, saying nothing. They're starting over, Miles continued. Clean slate. They deserve that much. Callum raised an eyebrow. That's new. Last time we talked about them, you said they deserved nothing. Maybe I've had enough revenge. Doesn't sound like the Callum Jennings I first knew. No. Callum turned, leaning against the railing. Maybe he's changing too. Miles studied him. You forgive them, then? No, the answer came quickly, certainty behind it. Some betrayals can't be forgiven, but I'm done actively punishing them. Fair enough. Miles raised his glass. To new beginnings. Callum clinked his glass against his friend's. New beginnings. After Miles left, Callum remained on the balcony, reflecting on a year past. His business had thrived, expanding beyond his original vision. Professionally, he'd never been more successful. Personally, the emptiness remained, but it had changed. Less raw anger, more contemplative acceptance of what truly mattered. His phone buzzed with a text. A woman he'd been seeing casually, suggesting dinner. Callum responded with a restaurant suggestion. Nothing serious, but pleasant company, on his terms. As night fell completely, Callum looked out at the city sprawl before him. This was his domain now, built by his hands, secured by his will, untouched by betrayal. Betrayal has a price, He murmured to the empty air. They just never thought they'd have to pay it. For the first time in a year, the words brought no satisfaction, no righteous vindication, only recognition of a simple truth. In matters of the heart, there were no true victors, only survivors. Callum Jennings had survived. Not unscathed, not unchanged, but standing. That would have to be enough.